Welcome to a Fantasy Fan Sportscast with Easy and Lou Landers. Now enjoy the show, but don't forget our safe word.
And our safe word today may be Sunday ticket. That will be our safe word. We will use Sunday ticket as our safe word, because when you hear the word Sunday ticket, and hopefully not a curse word before or after, then that means we might be ending the show a little quicker. Welcome to Fantasy Fan, the Easy on a Sunday morning edition, where it's me and my co-host Lou Landers, who I guess just realized he's without Sunday ticket right at the moment, and he's trying to resolve that. So, Lou, other than that, how are you doing this morning?
I was doing phenomenal this morning when it started. I got Lenny early at 7 a.m. doing some improv, talking some baseball, which was fantastic. And yeah, right now you see two different color headsets here, right? So yep. I'm double fisting at the moment. For all those who are watching us on video, I'm giving you a little visual. In this ear, I have the wonderful Easy, who I've grown to love more and more every time I do a show with him. And in this ear, I have the people that I can't stand, customer service reps at DirecTV.
I got you.
For some reason, automatically canceled my NFL Sunday ticket in the middle of the season. So I have them in one ear for whenever they get their shit together. And, of course, you here. So if I am MIA for a few moments, you know why.
All right. And then I'll do my best to just make stuff up. That's what I bring to the table. So the goal for me now is to never make it to the white headphone. Is that it? The white earbud is the one I want to stay out of.
At this point, yes.
Well, I know you said you had jersey issues. I can't tell. It looked like Mariners for a minute, but I'm not sure what you got.
What I have here today is an American League All-Star Home Run Derby jersey from Mr. Aaron Judge himself.
Mr. Aaron Judge. He's a good guy giving you his jersey. Well, I know you said you hadn't unpacked everything and the jersey box was put away. So, that's fine. That's fine. But we do have Cub Hub and the Real AA out there in the chat room right at the moment. Guys, any questions you have for start sit, get them out there. I guess the first thing, actives and actives are coming in right now. But the big thing is just, I'm not sure if it's even a big fantasy deal. What do you think about the Baltimore quarterback situation? I guess Lamar Jackson is starting, but they're saying RG3 will be involved. Is anything there for fantasy? And I guess how's it affect their players? And obviously now I got the finger. Lou gave me the finger so I can wing it. So I had to give him a good question right off the bat that will be harder for me. I guess if you're starting, I would start neither quarterback. A quarterback or super flex, if you had to, Lamar Jackson, I guess, would be the option because he's at least before he was the quarterback, he was getting, at least handoffs and getting the ball. So obviously running and touchdown capability is out there with Lamar Jackson. The issue I have is when they say RG3 is still going to be involved. I just don't know how many snaps that's going to take away from Lamar Jackson. So, it makes it a little harder. How this affects other players on the Ravens, I'd be scared of any wide receivers right now on the Ravens. Collins might be the only real starter in my mind. And I personally do have in a few leagues, and I am starting him. I think they're going to rely with a young quarterback, rely on the running game. Collins isn't the greatest running back, but he is the starter there. He does get the ball. He does have some straight north-south directional power. So I'll give you that. Sit, start. Cub Hub's already asking questions, but Cubby, we'll wait a few minutes for your good questions. I don't want you to.
I'm back for the moment.
Okay.
They're working on it. They could take 10 to 15 minutes. I'm staying on the line with them because I don't trust them. I heard you talk about the Ravens. I don't mind Willie Snead, who someone put in the chat room here. I do like Alex Collins this week, unfortunately, against your Bengals' terrible run.
He did ask then Willie Snead versus Swindle Smallwood in a flex. I think I'd still go with Smallwood. I'm not.
I'd go with Snead 100%.
Oh, I don't know. I don't know. I just don't know if I can trust
running backs right now.
Right.
I don't even know how much they're going to run the football today, especially versus a very good Saints rush defense and a fairly average to below average Saints pass defense right now with Carson Wentz, with Golden Tate, with Zach Ertz, with Aguilar, with Jeffrey. I think the Eagles might drop back, throw the ball almost 50 times today.
And that doesn't help Smallwood?
Well, it would if it was just him, but there's Corey Clement and Adams to deal with too.
All right. I just figured if they're going to pass the ball more, Smallwood would be the one in there seeing more. I'm just saying, I'm a little scared just with what's going to happen in Baltimore. And would you start Lamar Jackson in a 2-quarterback league or super flex if you didn't have many options?
I definitely would. I would definitely take a shot on Lamar.
All right. Would you start him over Dak? Which I think or Manning. Those to me are, a couple of flex guys.
Over Manning, yes. And it's tough because this might actually be a good week.
Right. Manning has a good matchup.
But it's hard for me to trust. It's very hard for me to trust Eli Manning. Although I like Shepard and I like Odell Beckham Jr. and even a little bit of Evan Ingram and Saquon Barkley, I'm not sure I like Eli Manning, which does sound weird. But I like the position players and what they're capable of doing. Even if Eli throws for 3 touchdowns like he did last week, topped out at 180-something yards last week, I think you can get a better potential production, bigger production from that of Lamar Jackson.
Right. And I think there's a chance that is there a chance that Lamar Jackson now would be the starter at least for the next couple games? And if he does well for the rest of the season, meaning if you are picking him up, you might actually get
his audition. This is his audition. This is his time to shine.
I mean, but I think there's a good chance now Flacco may not even play next week either. So, I mean, at least
whether Flacco's healthy or not. To me, if Lamar Jackson shines this week, if the offense looks good, if they can move the football consistently, if he can command the huddle, if he does not turn the ball over, if he makes clutch plays, even if they come away with a loss, because their defense gets up a lot of points, if he performs well and they put up points, they move the ball efficiently, and again, all those things you look for in a quarterback who obviously is the leader of the offense, if he can do all that, I think there's no reason why they shouldn't go with him. He's obviously their future, and there's no reason why they shouldn't turn the reins over to him if he can perform.
All right. I mean, I'll give you that. And just because we kind of started off getting the finger, I forgot we are at Lenny Melnick, FantasySports.com, the Legend Sports Network. I wanted to mention that up front, but then you caught me off guard with your 2 earbud things. But come to the chat room, put in your start sit. We try to keep up with that up and above the list and sheet that people ask during the week. So like I said, go there, post your information. We're going to be here for probably at least a half hour. So answer as many questions as we can out there in the chat room. I see we now have Dizzy Trout out there also. So, we'll keep up.
Dizzy Trout is my boy, Ron the Mad Dog McLeese, Easy, who you hear on Sports Overnight America with me. And
great. Okay. All right. So he's out here, learning from you or just making sure you've learned from him.
I think it's a little bit of both. I think we're a pretty good team. I mean, I love all my co-hosts, but I've been co-hosting with him the longest for sure. So I mean, all right.
Well, we're glad to have him out there.
Soft spot for him. He teaches me, I teach him. We bat around ideas, and we do.
Right, and I did see
we own some teams together as well in fantasy leagues. So.
Right. He says saying Jackson starting against the Bengals is good upside. Obviously, that's the game that I will have on. I did rock the Rudy, I did rock my Rudy Johnson 32 today. So, I'm cheering my Bengals on. It's been a long weekend after watching my Buckeyes game yesterday. That wore my ass out. So, hopefully the Bengals and the Ravens game goes the way Easy's hoping.
Well, it's a huge game, man. I mean, the loser is essentially
pretty much. I agree. And obviously, I have Green in a few leagues.
We have a question here from Dennis Timko, Sutton or Corey Davis. I like Cortland Sutton's skill set overall, but I don't think the Broncos are utilizing him properly. For me, it's 100% Corey Davis.
I would agree.
He's been great lately with Marcus Mariota. He has a good matchup. A very offensive-minded game this week, so I'm with you.
I think Corey Davis is headed up now. I mean, I hopefully, and again, we you think that every once in a while, but I think he's their main target now, and I think I would definitely go Corey Davis. I picked him up, made a few trades. He was one of my buy low guys. He had a big week. He was just somebody I thought I'd like to have on my team. A couple of teams the end of the season. John Brown, Baltimore, or Alex Collins before we go off of Baltimore. Someone's asking, would you start either one of them in your flex? I said Collins while you were giving me the finger earlier, that to me, he's their main starter running back. And with the rookie starting back, he might, or with a rookie starting quarterback, Collins might be the one that sees the ball the most.
Probably. It's hard to know which of the Ravens wide receivers is going to click with Lamar Jackson. Mike Strome, who you guys know is my co-host on First and Goal, told me to take a look at Hayden Hurst this week, actually.
Yeah, I thought that too.
Because him and Jackson had a lot of work together in the preseason, practice squad stuff, and they're roommates, believe it or not.
Well, the other thing a running quarterback does is they open up these little fast wide receivers. The quarterback starts moving out of the pocket, and then the safety pops up, and next thing you know, what these small, fast wide receivers, can get open and, take one pass, and get a 70-yard touchdown pass. You see that a lot with a running quarterback once in a while. So, and because we just talked about Corey Davis, someone's asking Corey Davis or Sammy Watkins. I know Watkins is questionable. That's an issue you have right now, and that's a Monday night game, but he's involved in a game with a lot of points. You hate to have him on your bench, and he does play.
That is true. Watkins is good. The Chiefs are good, and it's also there's a bit of a revenge factor. Sammy Watkins was with the Rams last season, if you remember, so that could be very interesting. But to me, I really like Corey Davis. He is the guy.
Right. I think if you have to win, you have to play Davis. If you don't have to win necessarily and you want upside, I think it's Watkins. But let's say if Watkins wasn't injured, would that make a difference?
No, it wouldn't make a difference because to me, again, Watkins is one of many.
Okay.
And Davis is the
receiver. So you're playing Corey Davis regardless. All right.
Yes. I'm all about volume, and Davis is getting the volume.
I think every week we get a question that involves Fitzpatrick. Fitzpatrick has a pretty good matchup, or Watson.
I'm all in on Deshaun Watson. Redskins allowed 400 passing yards to Fitzpatrick last week.
I am too. And you run the risk of Fitzpatrick. Right. A couple of interceptions. He could come out. Who knows?
I think that for the Houston Texans, they're going to be very successful throwing the football today against the Washington Redskins. I love Deshaun Watson in this matchup.
All right.
Just an update for you. My customer service lady, DirecTV, finally came back. She said, everything should be set for you. I turn on the channels. It's still a no-go. So I had to send her back to do some
Still a no-go.
So that's why when you get my finger here like this.
Okay. You know me though. I talk more than I listen or look. So if you might have to give me the finger a couple of times, and then I'll go as much as I can. Flex spot, Bibb, Smallwood, who I talked about, or Eckler.
I don't like any of these guys. They're all
me neither. But 6 teams on a bye though, you run into these weird ones.
I would say if I expected the Chargers game to be a close game and not a blowout, I would go with Eckler. But because I think the Chargers are going to blow this game out and it's going to be a lot of running with Melvin Gordon, I'd probably lean towards Bibbs or Smallwood. And Bibbs might be the guy because he is going to do the work on the passing downs. With Smallwood, again, he has to contend with Clement and Adams. At least with Bibbs, although AP is going to get the between the tackles work, with Mr. Captain Checkdown in Washington, with Mr. Smith, Bibbs might be the best play here.
Right. All right. I think I agreed with you. Obviously the problem is Eckler and Bibb are both, all three are back up, not guaranteed the most catches. A similar question, except they need two of the three. So we have to drop one. That's Cohen, Cook with Minnesota, or Miller with Houston. They need to start two of those three.
I would probably go with Tariq Cohen and Dalvin Cook. Dalvin Cook is fully healthy, although the Bears are a really good defense. I think we're finally going to see a lot of
And I think that was his question because he had the word Bears and a question mark in his question mark. Meaning, I think he's right. Cook is a no-brainer if he's not playing the Bears. Obviously, playing the Bears brings that to a little closer thing. And Miller, to me, I don't think people realize as much how, Alfred Blue's playing a lot more than people think. But Miller does get the ball a lot. So
and I have no issue with Lamar Miller. I mean, I'm using him in a flex spot this week where I have him, but I do think that Cohen and Cook have the higher upside. I really do think that you're going to see a lot of passing work from the Texans today. A lot of Hopkins. I think Demaryius Thomas is going to be worked in a lot more coming off their bye week. I think you're going to see a lot of those guys. And Lamar Miller will be used, but I think Cohen and Cook give you a bigger upside play.
Right. Next one, flex spot, John Ross or Mike Williams?
I'm going to go with John Ross with AJ Green likely out.
I think I saw he is now officially out. I could be a little wrong. I know at least ESPN moved him to O, so I was able to move him real quick.
100% John Ross. He bumps up to the second receiver. Mike Williams has way too many other guys to deal with Keenan Allen, with Tyrell Williams, lots of Mel.
The problem is we thought that last week and the Bengals didn't throw the ball a lot.
Ross still got himself a touchdown.
On a 10-yard, 9-yard pass. But all right, I'll give you that. Watkins is in here a few times. I have Funches, Watkins, or John Ross. So there's three people. The Funches is the only one we haven't talked about yet. Watkins, Funches, or Ross. Back to the same thing. I mean, to me, Watkins is the best, but if he's not playing, personally, then I would think Funches and Ross last, but you seem to like Ross. What do you think about him over Funches?
So obviously, you said it best. If Watkins is healthy, the problem is you don't know because it's Monday night. I would definitely go Sammy Watkins, but I mean, I think both Funches and Ross are going to be touchdown dependent this week. I don't think you can go right or wrong with either one. I mean, with Funches, I do think that the Lions secondary has been underachieving this year. I think that, he is probably the main wide receiver for Cam Newton, so he could do big things. But John Ross has that explosive ability that if the Bengals can get him the football with a lot of attention paid to Tyler Boyd, then so be it.
Right. Well, and the other problem is that Monday night game, which is pretty exciting. I'm kind of waiting to see that Monday night game. That Monday night game, if you don't play Watkins, there's so many fantasy players in that Monday night game that, all of them are pretty much on teams. So unfortunately, if you decide to play Watkins and then he doesn't play, there's not going to be a lot of people to pick up or move to on your roster. But at the same time, he probably is the one with the most points. He could probably score you the most points and has the most upside because that offense scores just so many. And I did get the finger again from Lou. Lou loves giving me the finger. Him and AA, but AA gives me more than one when I ask him. But, it's makes it a little harder for me because, no one wants to hear Easy's opinion on some of this. But I will remind you why I've got the finger. Go to LennyMelnickFantasySports.com. Go to the chat room, sign in, don't that guest thing. Both are free and easy. But sign in, make an account, enjoy the chat room. Every show we do live has the chat room going. A lot of fun people in there. A couple years ago, it's the chat room that got me hooked. It's a baseball all the time. We're adding more and more football. I'm not sure if Lenny appreciates that all the time, but we do add more and more football and a lot of shows that are just fun, including starting again Monday morning, 9:00. Lenny will be on there talking baseball. So come out to LennyMelnickFantasySports.com and, listen and enjoy the chat room and, enjoy AA when you can.
So I'm back again.
The white, wait, did I notice that the white earbud is gone?
Yes. The dumb bitch on the phone, pardon my French, tried to explain to me that the games don't start for 40 minutes, as if I don't know the games don't start for 40 minutes. That doesn't mean I should still have the message saying I don't have the service. Where's my pregame shows? So she's telling me that in 40 minutes it will work. If it doesn't, I'm going to throw a fit, which will not be on camera, which will not be on this show. But back to what you all came.
No, that sounds like a fun show. I got to say, that sounds like a fun show. You and Double A on the phone with the DirecTV girls sounds. I would watch even during football.
You know what I mean? Though, like she's telling me as if I don't freaking know.
Yeah, I know.
Don't start for 40 minutes. But where is my pregame? Where is Terry Bradshaw's bald head? Where is Michael Strahan's space between his teeth? I mean, come on.
Right, you have a gap in your programming, and you don't enjoy it. I get it, Lou. No, see, mine just went out on, so it must have been asleep. So my DirecTV has gone out. So I can't. Oh no, it doesn't. No, the Fantasy Sports channel on mine is now have programming. So I do have programming. So Lou, tough. I did not ask any questions. I promoted everything except for any of your shows. I did. I did enjoy your show yesterday at 2:00. So.
Well, I appreciate that, Easy. And you know what's good is that I'm fortunate enough to have mad skills that I can do 5 things at once. Talk to DirecTV, talk to you, read the chat room.
Mad skills. I'll give you that. All right, let's go to a couple of tight ends. Reed, Washington, Ingram, New York. Yeah, that's what I thought.
Washington, Ingram, New York. I mean, I want to go with Evan Ingram because, again, this is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers defense. It is one of the
worst. But it's Eli Manning too.
And the problem with Ingram is that Evan Ingram is that as good as he is, I still think Shepard and OBJ are the best plays for the Giants pass catchers this week. However, with Washington, Jordan Reed's been so inconsistent despite staying healthy, and half the time it seems like Vernon Davis gets more action at tight end than Reed does. So if I had to take one, it'd be Evan Ingram. I do have Evan Ingram in a dynasty league. Thank you, Dizzy Trout, a.k.a. Mad Dog McLeese, for trading me him this offseason. So I'd go with Evan Ingram. It's a personal preference.
And that's what I would say. To me, that one was kind of a coin flip. The problem is the first time you decide not to play Reed's the time he's going to have 2 touchdowns in 30 yards. I mean, it's always that way. In the flex, and I know we already talked about Collins again, but Mark Ingram versus Collins. Last week Ingram went off again because of the way the game went. I think Ingram over Collins because I think it's going to be another high scoring game, and he seems to get more involved in those.
That's true. And if the Saints do get out to a big lead, like some people have them. I mean, the spreads, I think it started at 9. I think it's down to 7.5 in favor of New Orleans. If they can get up in this football game, of course, that doesn't take Kamara out of it. But when you have a lead in the fourth quarter, third quarter, fourth quarter versus a tired defense, Mark Ingram is your between the tackles power type back.
Right.
That's where I could see him. That's where I could see him racking up a lot of yards. He's still quite a good pass catcher too, Mark Ingram. I mean, he can do everything Kamara could do, just not as well as Kamara.
I agree. I only had him on one team. I traded him. He had a big week. I did not want to deal with him during the playoffs, knowing or not knowing. So I traded. I had a good trade. I don't recall. I mean, so I did that last week on an up week, so I didn't have to worry about him. Speaking of 2 running backs that don't have no. Oh, and I'm thinking wrong. This is a running back versus. This is for a flex. Aguilar versus for Philly or Riddick. Detroit. Riddick now has been playing the slot, actually, even though he is a running back. Who do you think there? Again, unfortunately, with 6 bye weeks.
Is it PPR? Do we know?
Did not say. Just asked. Okay, well, just said flex.
If this was Aguilar and not Nelson Aguilar, I would definitely go with Jesus Aguilar, the big Brewers first baseman for all you baseball fans out there. But in this situation, I do like Nelson Aguilar. I have him in some DFS lineups, as you know, you listened yesterday. But Theo Riddick, from a PPR standpoint, I think he's going to be heavily involved. At one point, I was looking at TJ Jones, who is now the de facto number 2 for the Lions. I think that, quite frankly, Theo Riddick is probably going to see the second most targets in the passing game. Even if he only racks up 45 yards, he could have 7 or 8 receptions. I think Aguilar is kind of that big play guy. He might make 4 catches for like 70 yards. But I think Aguilar needs a touchdown to outperform Riddick. For a safe floor, I'd go with Riddick.
Go ahead and move Jordan Howard into that same question, because that happens to be what that guy is asking in the chat room. He's asking about Theo Riddick or Jordan Howard.
I'd probably go with Theo Riddick this week. I've been kind of disappointed by Jordan Howard. They're giving a lot more looks to Tariq Cohen. Jordan Howard's not seeing as much work as he probably should be. At least with Theo Riddick, he's going to make catches. Jordan Howard, they don't throw the ball to him as much as they can because they have Tariq Cohen, and I'd rather throw the ball to Tariq Cohen at this point than Jordan Howard.
Right, and they said in a 1-point PPR, John Brown or Golden Tate.
If this was last week, I would have said John Brown. This week, without knowing who Lamar Jackson's going to latch on to with John Brown, who I think could be in for a massive game, I do think that Golden Tate is going to have a much bigger role in this Eagles offense this week. Coach Doug Peterson has already stated that. He said Golden Tate is up to speed with the offense. I just trust the Eagles offense a lot more than I trust the Ravens offense. And I think they didn't trade for Golden Tate.
Right. And the news is he's right. The news is he's up on the offense a little more this week. That was the problem last week, right?
Exactly, especially in crunch time when it mattered most. They needed their most experienced players in their offense out there. And they actually had Golden Tate on the sidelines in the fourth quarter against the Cowboys when they needed to come back and try and tie that football game. That told you all you needed to know about him being prepared for last week. But with another full week in the books, one of their biggest priorities during the bye week was to get Golden Tate up to speed. He is up to speed, and I think that Golden Tate is probably going to have a very nice game today versus a very mediocre Saints secondary.
Right. And we do have Lenny out there in the chat room. I know he had a show this morning that I was listening to a little bit. I'll be honest, Lenny, I love you. On a Sunday morning, it is a little hard to listen to baseball as a football guy too. So I was listening to you. I was kind of like Lou. I had you in one ear and the chat room open, and then I had football stuff going on in the other ear, trying to keep up with both. I know one of these days in the roundtable, we're going to just, we'll have the football versus fantasy baseball discussion in depth. Because one of my loves of football is that it's one day a lot of times. I mean, this day in Easy's house, it's kind of it's a big deal every Sunday that, the fantasy stuff's going to happen and pretty much be done, Lenny, I appreciate you being there on Sunday morning. I just didn't catch the whole show, listening to some football stuff. I have Lou back. Also, Lou, I got to tell you, because you mentioned it last week, I don't know if you can see your screen because I know you're looking away. I used to just mark off the questions when I was done. I am now circling what you're picking, because you mentioned it last week that we need to go back and listen. I'm not sure yet I'll go back and listen, but I will mark on here. I decided I'm just going to circle. Why do I just mark it off? I'm going to circle.
Yeah, you know what? And I love that. I appreciate it because next week it actually gives us content to talk about too. We can go back and see, did we have a good week? Did we have a bad week? Did we go 500 with our picks?
All right. But that being said, me and you have not.
I want to say though, Easy, and I don't consider myself an expert. I don't know how you become an expert per se, but I think the biggest thing that makes you at least credible is being accountable.
Sure.
Right. Not just spewing out a bunch of BS, whatever's on your mind, and then doing it the next week. I think you can learn from the mistakes. I think you need to talk about the bad you do as much as you talk about the good.
I put fantasy, I'll use your air quotes too, experts in the same thing as I do movie reviewers. What I learned is I've learned to listen to a few movie reviewers that have a similar opinion to mine. So when they say they do or don't like anything, I still don't make my full decision on seeing the movie based on that. But I know that I'm listening to people who are more likely on my same wavelength. And that's kind of the same way I do in fantasy. I try to find people that have a similar opinion to mine, so that, I take what they say a little more to heart that way rather than just some random person. And that's back to me. I try to always at least be on the same, wavelength every week with fantasy, just because if you go on and off, then people don't know this doesn't sound like Easy this week, or that doesn't sound like Lou's opinion, but if you realize, no, that's Lou's opinion, because that's what he said 3 weeks ago, it gives you, a roadmap to at least follow. But again, everyone's picking their own players, regardless of what we say.
I have an example for you. So I posted the show in the Facebook groups, and someone responded with a question, or more so a comment. They're going to go with the Broncos tight end today over Ricky Seals-Jones. I said I don't love either of them, but if I had to pick, I'd go with the Broncos guy, Jeff Horman, who has gotten an uptick. But I asked him who's available. Jonnu Smith, maybe. He said Vance McDonald's available, and I tried to say Vance McDonald should be owned. Vance McDonald should be in. Last time they met up against the Jags in the playoffs, he had 16 catches. Jags funnel to the middle of the field. That's where Vance McDonald will own the Jaguars this weekend. And he came back with saying, well, I feel like it's a crapshoot, blah, 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 this, blah, 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 that. He might not take my advice. He's going to go with what he wants to do, but I'm still going to give him my opinion on it. Right. Hopefully when Vance McDonald goes off, whether he uses him or not, he'll come back next week and say, you were right. What do you got for me this week? And if I'm wrong, then, I'm wrong. I can't be right all the time. But to me, out of Jonnu Smith, Jeff Horman, Ricky Seals-Jones, and Vance McDonald this week, Vance McDonald to me is the clear-cut favorite.
That guy wants to know, start Cam or Mahomes. I think I'm starting Mahomes all the time, even I don't care what the matchup is.
Never. At this point, I think what we have learned, and there was 1 week where we tried to get too fancy with this, I think maybe a couple weeks ago, because someone was asking Brady, Rodgers, Mahomes or something. I don't know how you have all those quarterbacks on your team, but that's amazing. But anyway, I think we tried to get too cute with it, and we're like, oh, maybe we should go with Brady. Mahomes is the guy that if he's in your lineup, if he's not injured, if he's not on the bye, he has to be started. And in a week like this, although I do think Carolina's going to come out fired up after the embarrassment of that Thursday nighter versus the Steelers, you have to imagine 75, 80 points scored in that Chiefs.
And he has Goff on the bench. I'm sorry. That's a trade that should have been made this morning or last night. You should have been able to sell Cam today. And sure, maybe not what
we would probably go Goff Mahomes, to be honest.
Well, you're right. That's what I'm saying. Cam's the one who I would trade. I can't imagine
that he can't trade Cam because it's two quarterbacks. I know what he's talking about because both Mahomes and Goff go on the bye next week. So he can't.
Oh, all right.
So he was traded Goff or Mahomes a week or two ago.
Yeah.
He didn't.
Yeah.
Whatever. That's we're not here to say what he should have done.
Right. Too late.
We're here to say what he should do. And to me, Goff and Mahomes should be both starting. Let them rack up points for you as they go head to head in real life.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And those are fun. When you're in a 2-quarterback league and you have both quarterbacks on a team and, regardless what the ball does, you got, an offense of player. It makes it fun when you're watching a game.
What's great about these two offenses too is that even if Kareem Hunt and Todd Gurley score a lot of touchdowns, it's very possible that 2 of those 3 touchdowns they might score are in the air, via the air, because Mahomes and Goff do a really good job of doing so. And you tried to show up Goff to me and I was interested, but I already have my quarterbacks.
Right. And that's the problem. You have to shop quarterback.
I wasn't going to give up what you want for Goff. And I understand you not wanting to take too little. I was happy to give him Ryan Fitzpatrick and like John Brown.
Right. Well, but my argument would be right now, anybody is better than having one of them sit on your bench. Unfortunately, like you said, he's in trouble next week with the buys. So let's go back to our questions. I can never say his name. Tiki QT or Gallup?
Kiki QT or Michael Gallup.
Right.
So I'm taking a flyer on Gallup in one DFS lineup this week, but from a season-long standpoint, I like Kiki Kute. He was doing really well with the Texans when he was healthy. He is back now. Again, I think Washington is a team that can be beaten through the air. Again, 400 passing yards last week. Even if Hopkins and Thomas each see, 8 to 10 targets, there's still enough room for stay in the slot.
And just because, a couple questions down, we already talked about John Ross, but someone brought in Brandon LaFell. I kind of would put him in with those 3. Do you like Brandon LaFell at all compared to Kiki or Gallup?
You know what? I do. I think he actually might have the safest floor just because there's no one else to throw the football to. From a skill set standpoint, LaFell is on the bottom. From a standpoint, from a volume standpoint, LaFell actually has a chance to do something.
Right. Now, this guy's question was actually LaFell or Ross, where he talked about Ross. I think Ross has more upside, but LaFell definitely has more floor. So then we talked Mark Ingram earlier, but this question is Mark Ingram or Fournette. And then they said Fournette came off a big week, but his a lot of carries.
Easy success. I have the games. Success. I know everyone cares so much.
I do. Now, but that being said, I think you should apologize to the lady. She was right.
I mean, I would apologize if it didn't take her an hour and 20 minutes to get me the freaking football games that I've already been paying for since week 1.
Time is different in that country where she's at. That's all. I mean, for her, it's like 2 a.m. probably. Well, congratulations.
Listening to this show and hearing that I called her a bitch earlier, so she won't cancel.
Right. This is probably the one podcast she listens to, Lou. This is probably it. Fournette or Mark Ingram? And the guy even mentioned that Fournette had a lot of carries last week, but didn't do well per yard. So
I don't care.
I kind of agree with you.
Last year, he didn't have a lot of yards per carry either. He just got the ball a lot. Last year, one of the biggest knocks on Fournette coming into this season was that his yards per carry were underwhelming last year, yet he still put up huge numbers, RB1 numbers. He's a touchdown machine. He is going to get a lot of touches. And do you really – even the beautiful part for me last week with Fournette is even with TJ Yeldon and Carlos Hyde there, Fournette still made plays out of the backfield catching the football. That's what I want to see.
I don't know if you remember, I put Fournette in. I had that question on my own team, and I forget who I had him up against. Maybe it was Ingram, and I ended up sitting Ingram and putting in Fournette. And they both ended up going off well, and it was not that many points different. But the problem was the person I should have sat wasn't even in my question was Marlon Mack. Marlon Mack, I assume, was a definite. So to me, my decision was Fournette and Ingram, and that's the problem with fantasy. Sometimes the person you don't even think is in the question isn't in the question, ends up being the problem. So then the next question in a flex PPR to have this decision isn't that bad, and that's Diggs or Kerryon Johnson.
Wow, that is, I mean,
I don't know, could be a 10-team league or something.
You have to go with Diggs because he's an elite wide receiver. Kerryon, I do like. He's a great player. He's a guy that I would love as my RB2. Low-end RB1, but Stephon Diggs is a guy that you're probably drafted in the second or third round of your league. In a PPR, you have to go with the wide receiver. You have to go with the guy who, by the way, is fully healthy this week. There was rumors that he and Thielen were still dealing with some injuries. They are not. Apparently, they are as healthy as they've been all season long, are Thielen and Diggs. So don't worry about either of those guys.
Well, a couple more. We've been almost 40 minutes. Jack Doyle or Burton?
Jack Doyle or Trey Burton. I mean, again, it's one of those situations where although Jack Doyle's a good tight end and we'll see some work, there's another tight end there named Eric Ebron who's gotten a lot of touchdowns this year who also sees a lot of work. At least with Trey Burton, he's the only tight end the Bears are going to utilize. And although, Allen Robinson's going to get another heavy workload, Anthony Miller's come on. We talked about Cohen and Howard being involved. I feel like Burton is still, because he is the lone tight end there for the Bears to utilize, he is the safer play. However, Jack Doyle played 75% of the snaps last week in comparison to what Eric Ebron played. Ebron just happened to get the ball every time he was on the field and scored 3 touchdowns with it. So the volume is there for Jack Doyle. He's on the field a lot, and one of these weeks he is going to outshine Eric Ebron. Is this the week you want to take the gamble on it, though? I'm not so sure.
Right. I agree. Well, that was the end of my questions. I did want to bring up a few things. One is obviously out in California, the fires. I mean, it's just, becoming it's just a bad situation right now. Those fires, people think forest fires, but this is an area where there's a lot of homes, a lot of things. It's affecting games, it's affecting the air, everything out there. So, at the LennyMellyFantasySports.com, you know what? We just want to let everybody, it's still just fantasy. If you're out there, take care. Don't, enjoy the day as much as you can. But, our thoughts and prayers are going out to those people out there in California. The other thing, less important, obviously, but I must have thrown up in my mouth 15 times yesterday. People, if you're going to call into a damn radio station about fantasy in week 11, I realize that this is an important game for you. No one cares. No one cares who you're going up against. No one cares. It's your uncle. It's your wife. If it's your, the buddy who got you into fantasy. we all know every game is effing important, and these are even more important. So you're not calling in, So you know what? The next couple of weeks, just call in and ask your questions, please. Just call in and ask a simple question.
You know what, Easy? I agree with you, because although it does matter the players that you are going up against, it does make a difference to me. I never look at that kind of stuff. I always look at what is my optimal lineup.
No, but that's not the point.
Yeah.
They're calling and saying, "Oh, this decision is so important because I'm playing my rival. I really can't. I need to know between Sammy Watkins and Shepard because I really have to win this week. We all have to win this week. I'm not saying, oh, trust me, I think it's even stupid who you're actually playing against on the team because they're not lining up against each other. But my problem is I actually will deal with that a little more than I will the person who just says, oh, I really have to win this week because, I've already lost 4 games. We all need to win this week if we're calling a radio show. You know what? If you don't need to win, you're not calling. It doesn't matter. So, yeah, I'm just saying.
Well,
you know what?
Some people do like to call to hear their own voices.
I know.
Like, I was on the radio.
It just cracks me up, though. When they go, I'm playing my rival. What the hell? Why do I care in Ohio that somebody in Minnesota is playing his rival?
Because I have to play them.
I gotta say,
my rivals.
If Double A or that guy or Cubby put in the chat room, hey guys, this one's really important to me because I'm playing my rival. We're not going to answer the question any different now, right? I mean, they're putting, they're putting. Again, and I know the radio people, they know enough to know they're not putting any burden on them. They don't care. They're going to give you the best answer anyway. But it just. Oh my God! I bet I heard it 10 times.
Give me the players and give me the league size and format.
Right.
That's all I want.
Right. Cracks me up. And again, I'm telling you, every time they said it yesterday, I should have taken a shot. I'd still be drunk because I must have heard it 15 times yesterday.
My question to you, Easy, is why did you not call in and just say, hi, I'm wondering why people call you and tell you who they're playing against. Really?
Because they would never put me on the air. Now, every once in a while, you will get a host that will say, hey, you know what, buddy, we're going to give you our best choice anyway, but it's just, it just cracks me up. Those people that say, I'm playing my rival or I'm playing my wife. I think I heard that once. I'm in a league with my wife and I'm playing. I really have to win. So do I. I'm playing, other people too, but just cracks me up. Again, back to what we said earlier. You're still setting your lineups. We're going to give you the best answer we can, and we're going to try to be entertaining, and all that. Like I said, we're not going to change our answers
when it comes to fantasy football, no one is 100% right.
Well, no, right. I mean, to me, and every once in a while you'll see a host say that. I mean, it is educational guessing, as much as anything. We're trying to come up with, situations and what we've seen and what we might see. And you know what? It's hard. I mean,
to me, the biggest thing about making these decisions is looking at the players' amount of targets that they get, if they're a tight end or a wide receiver, if they're a running back, how many touches are they getting per game? Are you the starting player? Are you in a timeshare?
Right.
That's the kind of stuff that matters most to me when setting your lineups. And then from a quarterback standpoint, does your team run the football a lot? Have you been throwing the ball 40 plus times a game? I want a quarterback that's dropping back and throwing the ball 40 plus times. Well, it gives them more chance for yards and touchdowns.
And a lot of the people, though, will, unfortunately, they are trying to put that burden on somebody else. It is so important. And I get it. Some of these are close choices. They're coin flips. But, they're just hoping someone says one thing that makes them go, hey, I didn't think of that. So, yes, I'm going to, I'm going to maybe edge that way. But you're still setting your own lineup. But I do think there are some people out there. I don't think in our chat room and necessarily our people, but there are people out there that listen to, the other live networks that, they're just doing it. So when it doesn't work out, they have someone to bitch about on Monday. They're going, well, I shouldn't have played him because he told me to.
It's always easier to blame somebody else than blame yourself.
Sure. So you know what? It's always easier. Easy, always enjoy. The Real AA Survivor Series 7 p.m. Holiday Classic.
That's a wrestling thing, right?
I think is that the big one that's like, is that the one they've been talking about? Is like in some other country where there was some issues going on, and I don't know. 7 p.m. I'm guessing it's a pay-per-view there, Real AA. So you give me that little trick there.
Double A, from personal experience, make sure, check the channel, see if you get it now.
Right. It's off.
The last thing you want is to check an hour before and have it not there and have to deal with your television provider for an hour and a half.
Well, I think I think again, I don't want to say much. I mean, we're live. We have hundreds of 1 or 2 listeners, and we don't want, I don't know. I think he said Twitch, or there's some places out there, maybe. I don't know. There's a pretty good game. I'm trying to think, though. What's the late game tonight? The 8 o'clock game?
Tonight,
Vikings and Bears?
Bears, man, yeah.
Yeah, that'll be a good game. That'd be hard. I'd have trouble watching wrestling for that. I don't think I could give up that game to watch wrestling.
If you're a wrestling fan, then yeah, you want to watch wrestling. If you're not a wrestling fan, you're probably watching football. And if you're a big football fan, you're definitely watching football.
All right. Well, Lou, we've been 45 minutes. I had a good time. I got a few things to do and maybe set a lineup before we start here. I'm glad I appreciate you. I think you only had to give me the finger twice today, but I am glad you have your Sunday ticket. And I'm assuming you got no answer, right? She just said it's working now.
She told me that it will work soon. The first time she told me that, it did not work.
But they didn't tell you why it's not working, though, right? They didn't tell you why you were shut off.
But I got it back, and I'm not being charged a second time for it. So that's
there you go. All right, Lou. Real quick, where can people where's your next show? I think Tuesday morning now for football.
Tuesday morning, definitely 9 a.m. Eastern for First and Goal show. I might do something tonight on the network, potentially. It's possible. Lenny's brought something up. We might do something with some people you've never heard from before. We might do nothing. We might do something Lenny and Lou, potentially. Right. Anything's possible there.
The chat room's been more. There's been more new people I've noticed here this last week than before, and a couple of them came on the round table. Which is kind of neat to have someone just kind of be in the chat room for a little while and then participate. I found that I enjoyed that.
Yes, and guys, tune in to Ease Around the Table Tuesdays at 10 p.m. Eastern with Easy and his whoever guest decided.
Right, Easy doesn't.
I popped in there. I mean, I wasn't supposed to be on it. I popped in for about 10 minutes last time to talk about Serena Williams and Venus Williams, and if Serena could beat a male tennis player in her prime, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, we had fun, and now you can't forget the Real AA now. His Friday night. Frothy Fridays, I think. I do feel bad.
Frothy Friday, 7 p.m. I believe they are off this coming week, but usually Fridays, 7 p.m. Eastern, Frothy Fridays with Cubby and AA, and of course, their new superstar, Meng.
I mean, he feels bad. Fridays is a tough night for me. Between now, football ended for high schools, basketball starts, and I go to all the local stuff. That's always Friday nights. Had to deal cards this Friday night at a fundraiser, and hey, I deal cards. I get to drink some beer, eat some free fish. It's a fun time. So, I mean, that was fun. Well, Lou, again, thanks for coming out tonight. Everybody, come out to LennyMelnickFantasySports.com. Enjoy the network. Enjoy the chat room. I did circle. I'm going to keep you accountable. I'm going to try to keep track. I keep this over by my chair today, and hold your feet to the fire. So, again, thanks for everybody coming out tonight. Have a good Sunday and enjoy your fantasy. We'll see you next Sunday for Sit Start right here, LennyMelnickFantasySports.com
and the Legend Sports Network.
This has been Just a Fantasy Fan Podcast, and to keep your fantasies going, follow us
Sunday Ticket.
SundayTicket.com. Say good night. Good night.